Greetings. My name is John Peterson. I'm the Executive Director for School Administrators of South Dakota. Today we are going to, put together our second podcast. We had the first one a couple of weeks ago, and so we'll give number 2 a try in an attempt to share some information with our members, with the School Administrators of South Dakota members. Last week, October 14th and 15th, the Legislative Committee of School Administrators met, and the reason for the meeting was to discuss potential legislation and the stance that we will take as school administrators on certain issues that will come up before the legislature this year. And some of those, those positions will then be taken to the Delegate Assembly. The Delegate Assembly is made up of approximately 60 school administrators, and they'll be meeting in Pierre up in the House of Representatives chamber on November 19th. And that's where the final vote will take place on our actions. In the Legislative Committee, that's made up of approximately 15 school administrators that deal with that. Some of the issues that we talked about and that we will be discussing at our Delegate Assembly are preschool standards. Once again, South Dakota is struggling because we have no state standards for preschool. And school administrators certainly supports that. It's been an issue the last couple of years, but there's a strong lobbying group that does not want standards accepted. SDEA, Associated School Boards, school administrators all certainly speak highly, recommend this, but we have not been able to get it passed. Not sure there'll be legislation this year, but there certainly should. So we'll be anxiously awaiting the decision on that. The other issue that could be discussed this year is differentiated pay. Differentiated pay is being practiced right now in certain South Dakota schools, and what that amounts to is it's where the hard-to-fill areas would possibly be compensated higher than in the areas that have more applicants for positions. So that's something that's been discussed at length in the past, and certainly no decision has been made on that legislatively. Continuing contract, and I'm even reluctant to bring that one up because that's certainly an item that is one that's being followed by a lot of people, and I don't know if it'll be an issue or not, but what it amounts to in South Dakota, we technically don't have tenure, but we have continuing contract for our teachers. School administrators do not have continuing contract, and so that's something that we will follow, and we've heard that there might be some legislation on that, and I'm not sure. Another issue is ESAs. Most school administrators are in favor of ESAs and the funding. This year, the funding was cut down to $500,000. I'm not even sure that's seed money for running the ESAs in South Dakota, and they certainly provide a service to many of our school districts, so we'll want to talk about that one. I guess it's been said in the press anyway that the CPI for this next funding of education, will it be at 1.2? The past couple of years we've had some legislation that talked about taking it up to 4. That certainly has not happened, and there's been discussion that we cannot tinker or mess with the formula at this time, but we certainly would take any increase we could, but we realize that that's going to be difficult. Especially this year where the state is struggling financially, and we realize that it's going to be probably one of the more difficult years we've experienced for a long time financially here in South Dakota. Minimum teacher salaries, that's something that will be discussed. Personally, I'm not sure that should be an issue. I mean, I think until we deal with all our teacher salaries, I'm not sure that we need to deal with a minimum teacher salary, but there's been discussion the last couple of years, and it'll probably be brought up again. Categorical aid. We've always had concerns about categorical aid. What we have always said is put the money in the formula. Do not put it in categorical aid. But we've looked at higher ed, and they've been very successful with categorical aid. We certainly are still pretty split on that, I think, as an organization, split as to whether there should be categorical aid or if it should go into the formula. Unfunded mandates, I guess we've always had concerns about that. I mean, to require schools to provide programs without funding, it really is a hardship for schools. So we've always followed that and always stressed that mandates should not be unfunded. Charter schools, that's going to be interesting. South Dakota has never had any charter schools, and we as an organization have always been against that. There's been legislation the past couple of years to have charter schools. One thing that changes the complexion of that just a little bit this year is there are some stimulus funding monies available for states, but you have to have the opportunity at charter schools. So, that's something that we have to discuss and we have to talk about. The one thing that I certainly have learned, that if you are going to have charter schools, at a minimum, they have to always be controlled and under the direction of the local school board. And so that's something that will come up. Harassment and bullying, that was an attempted legislation last year. Our concern on harassment and bullying still is that we do not think that the legislature should pass school policies. We realize that harassment and bullying is a big issue. We've certainly attempted to update our policies, but we think that any policy should be developed, and it should be I guess organized and evaluated on a local basis. So we will certainly be against any policies that are developed for our schools on a legislative basis. Open enrollment, there's still some concerns out there about open enrollment. I've heard discussion about possibly there should be a deadline on when open enrollment can take place and some other issues there. So those are just a few of the issues that we will be discussing. Sharing a little bit more information with you folks. Yesterday I heard Deneen Hollingsworth, the Secretary of the Department of Health, talk about, H1N1. And that's certainly an issue in South Dakota. And one thing that she said, it probably is not a surprise to school administrators, is that there is no sign that this is peaking, that it increases on a daily basis in South Dakota. So far, we have had 3 deaths in South Dakota. Also, we have 32,000 doses of H1N1 vaccination to date, and that certainly is enough it certainly is not enough to vaccinate our students and the people that need to be. So, we'll be following that. The department is working with our schools. We appreciate that. If you got any questions, certainly contact the Department of Health. The salary survey. We encourage you to complete the salary survey. That's a benefit that we do for our members, and so we would ask the business managers or their appointees to go online and update that salary survey. If you've got any questions, you can call Kara at our office, but it's the same procedures as we've used this last year. Also, I guess to put a plug in here for ASBSD, they will be conducting a candidate forum on November 20th at the Ramcota in Pierre, and it will be an opportunity to hear the potential governor's candidates. Lieutenant Governor Dugard will not be there, but it's my understanding that Scott Munsterman, Ken Nupi, Ron Valesky, and Scott Heidelkram will be in attendance. So, see if that fits in with your calendar on November 20th in Pierre. That brings a conclusion to this podcast, and I appreciate you tuning in.